Welcome to the Becoming a Know-It-All channel. Today's fun topic is all about Bitcoin. We're going on a deep dive into its history, which you absolutely need to know, and some fun conversational facts that'll make you the Bitcoin whiz in any room.
Yeah, definitely some good ones in there.
And we'll also give you some excellent questions you can use when speaking with any Bitcoin expert. So buckle up, learner, because we're about to unpack the fascinating world of the first and, well, most famous cryptocurrency.
It really is fascinating.
Our mission today is basically to cut through the noise and give you the core understanding of Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
We've looked at everything from its, mysterious origins to its potential impact on the future of finance.
And we've drawn from things like the original white paper, insights from places like Investopedia and Forbes.
Right, and even discussions about its environmental footprint and security considerations. Big topics.
Absolutely.
We really want to equip you with knowledge that's both thorough and hopefully easy to grasp, sparking those aha moments without, overwhelming you.
Exactly. Let's make it make sense.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The birth of Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's quite a story. Bitcoin emerged back in 2008. And what's really interesting is the timing, right? This was during major instability in the global financial system.
Oh, right after the crash.
Exactly. And this white paper appears, authored by someone or maybe a group called Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody knows who they really are.
Still a mystery.
Totally. And the paper, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, proposed this, well, pretty radical alternative. Digital cash without banks.
Peer-to-peer.
Peer-to-peer. And that timing right after the financial crisis is just crucial for understanding why people were interested initially.
And this next bit really drives that home. So fast forward just a bit to January 3rd, 2009. Nakamoto mines the very first block, the Genesis block.
The beginning of it all.
And get this, learner, embedded right in that first block was a message, a headline.
The Times 03 Jan 2009 Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks.
Wow. Talk about a statement.
Yeah, it's like a digital timestamp, pointing right at the distrust in the traditional system that fueled Bitcoin's creation.
It wasn't subtle, was it?
Not at all. It was a clear declaration. We need something different, something resistant to that.
So the very early steps, the first actual transaction happened soon after, Jan 12th, 2009.
That's right. Nakamoto sent 10 BTC to Hal Finney.
Hal Finney, the cryptographer. He was an early supporter, right? First person to run the software besides Satoshi.
Yep, exactly. And it's interesting, like you said, Nakamoto didn't just invent this out of thin air. He or they built on earlier ideas, things like Weidai's B-Money and Nixabo's BitGold.
So it was building on previous work, synthesis.
Precisely. Bitcoin wasn't created in a vacuum. It brought together these existing cryptographic concepts into a working system. That was the breakthrough.
Okay, now for one of the most famous stories. Imagine using this brand new digital thing to buy pizza.
Ah, yes. Laszlo Hanyecz, May 2010.
He paid 10,000 BTC. 10,000 for 2 pizzas.
Can you even wrap your head around what 10,000 BTC is worth today?
It's astronomical. It just shows how little perceived value it had back then.
It really does. That first documented commercial transaction, it just highlights how new it all was.
Okay, so we've got the origin story. How does this thing actually work? The essentials.
Right. So the absolute core concept is decentralization.
Meaning?
Yeah.
No central bank.
Exactly. Forget central banks or single authorities. Bitcoin runs on a global network of computers. Thousands of them. They all work together to validate transactions. It's a true peer-to-peer system.
And all these transactions are recorded somewhere.
Yes, on the blockchain. Think of it like a public digital notebook or a ledger.
Okay.
It records every single Bitcoin transaction ever made. And this ledger, this blockchain, isn't stored in one place. It's copied and shared across that whole network of computers.
Which makes it secure.
Incredibly secure and transparent.
Wow.
Because everyone has a copy, you can't easily cheat the system. Every entry is basically permanent and verifiable by anyone on the network.
So no single point of failure like a bank server going down.
That's a huge part of the appeal. Decentralization removes that dependency and vulnerability.
Okay, so where do new Bitcoins come from? They aren't just printed, right?
Right. They're created through a process called mining.
Mining. Like digging for gold.
Sort of a digital equivalent, yeah. It involves specialized computers, very powerful ones now, solving really complex mathematical problems.
Okay, why? What's the point of solving math problems?
Well, solving these problems is how new transactions get verified and confirmed. Once verified, they're bundled together into a block.
A block to add to the chain.
Mm,
The blockchain.
exactly. And the miners whose computers successfully solve the problem and add the next block get rewarded.
Rewarded with.
New bitcoins. That's how new coins enter circulation. Plus, they usually get the transaction fees from the block they added.
Okay, so mining serves two purposes.
Right.
Verifying transactions and creating new coins.
You got it. And there's a really key mechanism built into this reward system. It's called the halving.
The halving. I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's fundamental. Roughly every 4 years, the amount of new Bitcoin rewarded to miners for adding a block gets cut in half.
Cut in half. Wow.
It's designed to make Bitcoin increasingly scarce over time.
Yeah.
Slows down the rate at which new coins are created.
Okay, so it started higher and gets lower.
Right. Back in 2009, the reward was 50 BTC per block. After several halvings, as of April 2024, it's down to 3.125 BTC per block.
Wow, quite a reduction.
And this pre-programmed scarcity is a major part of Bitcoin's design. It contrasts sharply with traditional currencies where central banks can, print more money.
Which leads to inflation concerns for some people.
Precisely. The halving supports the idea of Bitcoin as a potential hedge against inflation.
And speaking of scarcity, there's an ultimate limit, right?
Yes, a hard cap. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins in existence, period.
21 million. That's it.
That's the maximum supply coded into the protocol. We're getting closer, but the halvings mean it'll take many, many years to reach that final number.
And that finite supply, that's a huge reason why people call it digital gold.
Absolutely. It mimics the scarcity of precious metals like gold, making it attractive as a potential store of value, especially in a digital world.
Okay, so we know how it works.
Yeah.
What can you actually do with Bitcoin? What's it used for in practice?
Well, the original idea was digital cash. So yes, you can use it to buy things, online certainly, and even some physical stores are accepting it now.
So direct payments between people anywhere in the world.
Yep, without needing a bank in the middle. That peer-to-peer electronic cash system Satoshi envisioned.
But it seems like the digital gold idea has really taken off too.
It really has. Perhaps even more so than the payment aspect for many holders. People buy Bitcoin and hold it, hoping its value will increase over the long term, like gold, a store of value.
Okay. And of course, investment.
Big time. Bitcoin is actively traded on cryptocurrency exchanges 24/7. It's become a very popular, though definitely volatile, investment asset.
Volatile is the key word there, right?
Mhm.
Prices can swing wildly.
Oh, yeah. But its limited supply and growing adoption are factors that fuel its investment appeal. I mean, its price did break $100,000 for the first time in, December 2024?
That was a major milestone. And what about sending money?
That's another use case. International money transfers. Bitcoin can potentially be faster and cheaper than using traditional banks or wire services, especially for larger amounts.
Interesting. So it's kind of evolved from just digital cash to also being digital gold and an investment vehicle.
Exactly. The perception and use cases have definitely broadened since 2009. But that volatility you mentioned, it impacts both its use as everyday cash and as a stable investment. It's a double-edged sword.
Right. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Time for some fun and surprising Bitcoin facts. Stuff to impress your friends.
Always fun. Lay 'em on me.
Okay, first off, Satoshi Nakamoto, or the anonymous creator.
Yeah.
It's estimated they still hold around 1 million Bitcoins mined way back in the very early days.
1 million BTC. Just sitting there. Wow, that's a fortune. And still anonymous.
Adds to the whole mystique, right? Now, on the flip side, tragedy. Think about lost Bitcoin.
Oh, the lost keys stories. Painful.
So much Bitcoin is believed to be lost forever because people forgot passwords, lost hard drive.
Like that guy in the UK, James Howells, threw away a hard drive.
Yes, with 7,500 BTC on it. Can you imagine? Just gone.
That's gotta sting. It really underscores the whole be your own bank responsibility thing. Lose your keys, lose your coins.
No kidding. Okay, something lighter.
Yeah.
Where did the world's very first Bitcoin ATM pop up?
I think I know this one. Vancouver.
Bingo. Vancouver, Canada. Back in 2013, I think.
Making it easier to swap cash for BTC.
Yep. Now, for scale,
Yeah.
a single Bitcoin transaction once moved 500,000 BTC.
500,000 Bitcoin in one go. The value must have been enormous.
Mind-boggling. And related to that, people have transferred like $1 billion US worth of Bitcoin
Okay.
for transaction fees as low as, say, $700.
That highlights the potential efficiency compared to traditional finance for massive value transfer, right?
Exactly. And Bitcoin's definitely gone mainstream, or at least entered pop culture.
Sure.
You see it mentioned in TV shows, movies.
Yeah.
Major companies are starting to accept it, even sports teams. It's, around.
It's certainly captured the public imagination.
And one last perspective check. If you took all the Bitcoin that will ever exist, that 21 million,
Uh-huh.
and divided it equally among every single person on Earth,
Okay, how much would each person get?
about 0.00027 BTC.
Wow. That really puts the scarcity into perspective on a global scale. Not much to go around per person.
Right. So owning even one whole Bitcoin is statistically pretty significant.
Definitely food for thought.
Okay, so we've talked about the fun stuff, but it's crucial to talk about risks and security. This isn't risk-free.
Not at all. That volatility we mentioned, that's risk number one for many. The price can drop dramatically just as it can rise.
You need to be prepared for those swings. And then there's securing your actual Bitcoin, your wallet.
Absolutely critical. Your Bitcoin wallet doesn't actually hold the coins themselves. It holds the keys specifically, your private keys that give you access to your coins on the blockchain.
So if you lose those keys,
You lose access to your Bitcoin permanently. There's no forgot password button linked to a central company.
scary. What kinds of wallets are there?
There are different types. Software wallets on your computer or phone, which are convenient for smaller amounts or frequent use. Then there are hardware wallets, which look like little USB drives.
Right, I've seen those.
They keep your private keys offline, making them much more secure against online hacking. Generally recommended for storing larger amounts long term.
And there were paper wallets early on, too.
Yeah, basically printing out your keys. Less common now, and they have their own risks, like physical damage or loss.
And then there's a difference between custodial and non-custodial wallets. That seems important.
Very important distinction. Custodial wallets are typically those provided by exchanges or other third parties. They hold your private keys for you.
So like a bank holding your money. Convenient, maybe?
Convenient, yes, but it means you're trusting that third party with your assets. Think about exchange hacks.
Ah, yeah. Like Mt. Gox back in the day. Yeah, or CoinCheck.
Exactly. Huge amounts of crypto stolen. If the custodian gets hacked or goes bankrupt, your funds could be gone. And unlike bank deposits, there's usually no FDIC or SIPC insurance for crypto held on exchanges.
So non-custodial means?
Non-custodial means you control your private keys. You have full responsibility for securing them. More security potentially, but also more responsibility.
Not your keys, not your coins is the saying, right?
That's the mantra in the non-custodial world. And tied to that is password protection for your wallet software or device, and crucially, backing up your recovery phrase.
The seed words, those random words you get when setting up a wallet.
Yes, usually 12 or 24 words. If you lose access to your device or password, that recovery phrase is often the only way to restore your wallet and access your Bitcoin. Losing it is like losing the keys to the vault.
So write it down, store it securely, offline, maybe in multiple places. Don't store it digitally where it could be hacked.
Absolutely paramount. Security hygiene is non-negotiable in crypto.
Okay, one more big topic, Bitcoin and the environment. We hear a lot about energy consumption.
Yeah, that's a major ongoing discussion. Bitcoin mining, that process of solving complex problems, it is energy intensive. It requires significant amounts of electricity.
And the concern is the carbon footprint, right? Especially if the power comes from fossil fuels.
That's the core concern. If miners are predominantly using coal or natural gas, then yes, the carbon emissions associated with mining can be substantial.
But the picture isn't entirely black and white, is it? The energy source matters.
Hugely. The mix of energy used for mining is key. And estimates change, but as of, say, 2025, some studies suggest that renewables actually account for a pretty significant chunk.
Really? How much?
Estimates vary, but one suggests around 43% from renewables like hydro, wind, and solar, then maybe 38% natural gas, 10% nuclear, and only about 9% from coal.
Okay, so nearly half, potentially, from renewables already. That's different from the narrative you sometimes hear.
It is, and there's another interesting argument some people make about synergy with renewables.
How so?
Well, the idea is that Bitcoin miners are geographically flexible and seek out the cheapest energy. Sometimes that's excess energy from wind or solar farms that isn't needed by the grid at that moment.
So miners could actually help make renewable projects more economically viable by buying up that surplus power.
That's the argument, that mining could potentially incentivize more renewable development and help stabilize grids with fluctuating energy sources. It's a complex debate, but not just a simple Bitcoin is bad for the environment story.
What about the hardware itself? E-waste.
That's another valid concern. The specialized computers used for mining, the ASICs, they become outdated relatively quickly as new, more efficient models come out.
Leading to electronic waste.
Yes. Estimates on the amount vary, but it's definitely an issue.
Mhm.
Though efforts towards better recycling and repurposing of old mining hardware are growing.
So energy mix is improving, potential for green synergy, but e-waste is still a factor to watch.
A pretty good summary to complicated issue.
Okay, learner, hopefully you're feeling pretty knowledgeable now. We've covered a lot to really help you solidify things and give you some great conversation starters. Here are 5 excellent questions you can ask any Bitcoin expert you meet. Ready?
Let's hear him.
1. Considering Bitcoin's fixed supply and the ongoing halving events, how do you anticipate this will impact its long-term value and adoption as either a mainstream currency or, a store of value?
Good one. Gets right to the core economic principles.
2. With all the scrutiny on the environmental impact of mining, what innovations or shifts in energy sources do you see as most promising for mitigating those concerns?
Yep, addresses that whole energy debate.
3. What are the key differences and, maybe more importantly, the security considerations someone should be aware of when choosing between a custodial wallet, like on an exchange, and a non-custodial wallet, especially if they're holding for the long term?
Crucial for practical use. Security first.
4. Beyond just being currency or an investment, what are some of the most innovative or maybe unexpected use cases for Bitcoin, or even just the underlying blockchain technology that you find particularly exciting?
Looking beyond the obvious. Nice.
And 5. As regulatory landscapes around the world keep changing, what potential future regulations or policy changes could have the most significant impact, positive or negative, on the widespread adoption and use of Bitcoin?
The regulation question.
Yeah.
Always a big one.
So those 5 questions should spark some really interesting discussions.
Absolutely. Those cover a lot of the key areas and ongoing debates. Asking those shows you've done your homework.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. Let's unpack what this all means. We've taken quite the whirlwind tour, haven't we? Through the history, the mechanics, the fascinating aspects of Bitcoin.
From Satoshi's mystery paper to, well, $100,000 Bitcoin and beyond, it's been a wild ride.
It really has. And it's clear, I think, that Bitcoin is more than just digital money. It's a technology, a societal phenomenon almost.
Definitely. It challenges traditional ideas about money, about trust, about authority.
We really hope this deep dive has given you a solid foundation, a good grasp of the fundamentals, and maybe sparked a few of those aha moments.
Hopefully demystified it a bit.
Yeah. As always, we like to leave you with a final thought, something to mull over. Considering Bitcoin's decentralized nature, the fact that it's designed to resist censorship, how might it continue to evolve? How might it interact with or even challenge traditional financial systems and maybe even broader societal structures in the years ahead?
That's the big question, isn't it? Where does it go from here? How does it integrate, or does it remain separate? Lots to think about.
Definitely something to ponder. Thank you for becoming a know-it-all with us.